So I'm installing a new parallel flow AC condenser in my third-gen Camaro, and I'm just giving you a look at the rubber isolators that sit on the Champion 3-core radiator. And I'm using these rubber pieces right here that came with the car to put it on, and when I bring the radiator up, it still sits back just a little bit from the metal frame area there around the condenser. And I had to, in a previous video, I had to trim out the insulators on the bottom. I left them the same for the condenser, knowing that I was switching to a serpentine system. This is an 87. I was switching to a serpentine system so that I could convert over to a FLX7 AC compressor. And here are my brackets right here that I put in. You can kind of see the spacers that I welded on. You don't necessarily have to weld them on. I went ahead and did that because I do have a welder. And then right here as well, I couldn't find any 50 or 55 millimeter bolts. The bolts that go in through here in the serpentine kit, they're M10 1.5, and I got 30 millimeter bolts that go through on the short side, because this right here, this ear on the compressor is 14 millimeters. So I got 30 millimeter bolt right here. I've got a 45 millimeter, which that fit fine, but this one in this bracket, I've seen guys that have done it that use a straight bracket that comes from Vintage Air. Well, the auto parts stores around me didn't have anything longer than a 45, so I had to bend the bracket. And this is 3/16 steel flat bar stock, and so I got that from Home Depot, and I bent it in. And then you can see down here, sorry if this is upside down or right side up, I'm not sure. Right down there is where I mounted the ears in the serpentine setup. I'm not running a smog pump down there. I had to get a longer serpentine belt because I guess I made my brackets a little bit taller. So right now this doesn't sit completely level with the radiator if you're looking at it right here. I guess some guys maybe have made it shorter and might have been able to use their a 98.5 inch hose. Belt. But anyway, so that's it right there. And I'm also doing the just a Hayden transmission cooler, because I have a higher stall converter in. It is this 678. You can look it up by a 678, and it was a whole kit. Came with brackets and stuff like that, and hose. I use the brackets. I don't have anything. I've seen a lot of guys use these zip tie deals that come with them. I mean, whatever you can use, it doesn't really matter. I've heard good results from all of them. And I'm using the mounting points on the bottom of the car, right down here, where right down here, and I just bent the brackets, drew some lines, bent the brackets by hand. They're pretty easy to work with. It's where one of the shrouds is gonna go, like the air dam. Anyway, so that's my conversion right there. It is kind of a tight fit. In between, when you bring up the radiator right here, it hits that rubber piece that goes on top of the condenser. I did when I was removing my AC box, it came out in 2 different pieces. And I mean, the previous owner botched the wiring harness, so I'll still have to deal with that. I've got pretty much everything for the swap that I'll need. The only thing original that I'm using that I bought off of eBay was this high pressure line right here. So this high pressure line to fit all the 90, 91, 92 air conditioning components, since they recommend a parallel flow condenser with R134A. Anyway, so that's the only thing original, and I've got a friend that is a AC technician, and he recommended blowing this out with nitrogen. I had blown it out with brake cleaner, but he recommended nitrogen to really clean it out. Since I'm not really sure of what the condition of the original, I guess this is an 89 since it's got it on the tag right there, 89. But I guess he recommended nitrogen, so if you have a friend that's an AC guy, I couldn't really find nitrogen anywhere. So that's the only thing. I wanted to try to get all the R12 and mineral oil out of this. So he said he's just gonna bring me a can and we'll blow it out on Sunday. I did, the top of the AC box came off okay, so I just repainted it with some trim paint. And it's got this like foam stuff in it. And I have headers in my Camaro, and it had burnt a hole or made it really brittle, made the AC box really brittle. And so I have fiberglassed over it. That's not a very good shot. I've fiberglassed over it. Let me take it in here and you can see it. I fiberglassed over it and repatched it together. Now, I'm not really a fiberglass guy. It's not too bad to work with, but it had broke and it had cracked along here, all the way through right here. It cracked up here. It snapped in half, so I patched it back together and I put some high temp paint on it. Fiberglassed it and then put some high temp paint on it. Fiberglassed on the inside. Need some light on it. So I fiberglassed on the inside. You can kind of see some of the fiberglass, but it doesn't really interfere. I did sand it down. I spent about an hour sanding it down because I don't have like a small wheel for sanding it, and so it's got these kind of imperfections in it, but all this is going to be underneath, so I really don't care. I didn't want to buy a new one and wait for it to ship. That was really my issue with it, but you can kind of see right here, I put, I'll insert a picture, but right here is where I put some metal mesh and then I fiberglassed over it. you can just buy some fiberglass mat. This is Bondo fiberglass resin. I used one of those and then one of these cans and then some on it, trying to smooth it out and put some extra layers of fiberglass on it. Here's the fiberglass mat right here. I put that on it. Make sure you wear gloves with that stuff. It gets sticky and gets all over the place. So I'm hoping that will do it. I test fit my new evaporator coil in it, and it seemed to fit just fine. So I've done this probably over the course of 4 days here and there between work, and I think it turned out pretty good. I just have to paint the underside of it now, because that's how it'll sit in the car. But I mean, this fiberglass is just I think it's polyester or resin. I'm not real familiar with it, but I didn't use epoxy resin just because it wasn't available in a kit, and then I saw how the kit worked, and it's just these two things: this liquid hardener and this stuff, and you mix it up. And I mixed up one batch that was way too much hardener in it, and it set up in like 5 minutes. So you try to use hardener, but you know, don't use too much like me and do that. I did get this a couple of different ones. This is from 2 different places, but this DEI, it withstands 400 degrees Fahrenheit directly. So since that one piece is, and then this other aluminized heat barrier right there, I'm gonna put that on the underside of it right here where the headers go, just to hopefully keep it from disintegrating again. And then I'll probably, it had that foam stuff from the top in it, right here, this foam stuff, but that was all burned up because of the headers, so I had to remove all that from right here. And then I think I've got enough of the heat barrier, and I'm just going to put it on the inside and the outside, so hopefully that'll keep the heat from the headers at bay.